Hey, Battle Bill, here with another video, and today we're going to be trying out something a little different. We're going to get into some more Master League Go Battle League battles, but what we're going to do is I'm going to actually test out a team that somebody commented on my last video to try. I don't know if this person wants me to shout them out or not, so, if you do, let me know in the comments. Next time I definitely will. I appreciate you giving me a suggestion. And it was actually a no legendary team with a Pokemon that I barely use and a couple Pokemon that I've used a lot. So bear with me. It's my first time trying the team. This is the first set that I tried it, so there are definitely going to be some mistakes in this video, and like I always say, it's really important to learn from them. But I also make some good moves in this video, and this team definitely has a lot of use. This team consists of GARCHOMP as a lead, with Togekiss and Melmetal in the back. So getting into this, we already know GARCHOMP's got that spam ability as a lead Pokemon. And then Togekiss can really chunk at things, with Metagross having the heavy-hitting charge moves in the back. Essentially, a goal to win a match, possibly, would be to have Metagross end up in a similar situation to Mewtwo in my last video, where it maybe has energy advantage, or has a shield advantage, or just like is one-on-one with another Pokemon and can hit hard with either Meteor Mash or Earthquake. So, let's jump into the battles. We'll talk about what I did well, we'll talk about what mistakes I made, but again, this is a new team to me, pretty much, because I never or rarely ever use Metagross, so there are definitely a lot of things I needed to learn as I was doing these matches. So his first matchup is against Howie93, and we're going to see what he decides to lead with. I'm going with my Garchomp. He brings in a Dragonite. So I'm like, alright, interesting. I have Togekiss in the back, but I don't want it to get walled. So I lose this lead because Dragonite has access to that Dragon Breath. So I actually decide to immediately throw in Metagross and see what he decides to do. He overfarmed a bit, which I didn't mind, and he brings in Giratina to essentially counter my Metagross. So I'm like, you know what? Thanks to him overfarming, I should be able to get to 2 Meteor Mashes, which will put some shield pressure on his Giratina. So that's the goal. I land the first Meteor Mash there. It does solid damage, does about, I'd say, 60%. He's going for a charge move, whether it's Ominous Wind or Shadow Ball, most likely Ominous Wind. I'm going to shield it. It is Ominous Wind, because I know I can get to another Meteor Mash because of the fact he overfarmed with his Dragonite when I swapped in my Metagross. So I'm going for this Meteor Mash here, and he's either going to have to match me in shields, or I'm going to get switch advantage. He decides to shield, so I'm like, okay, no problem. Hopefully he can't Shadow Claw me down. And it was kind of looking like he could. It was going to be a bit of a race, but he decides to throw his charge move, and I am thankful that he decided to do that. So he throws another Ominous Wind, takes out my Metagross. No way I was going to shield that. And I have him pretty low, so I'm like, you know what? Charms will be enough to finish him off. If I bring in Garchomp, the Mud Shots wouldn't do enough, and I'd be forced to throw a charge move. So I went with Togekiss to bring in, and I end up charming down his Giratina. So now we gotta wait to see what his next Pokemon is, because there was no way he was coming back in with the Dragonite. It would have gotten walled by my Togekiss. So he brings in Dialga, and I'm thinking to myself, wow, I could do a lot of charm damage. The issue is I only have one shield. I'm going to use it here because it's definitely going to be an Iron Head, and the damage is going to slowly start to add up. So I'm like, how can I use Garchomp here to help me out? I'm going to go for Flamethrower, try and get this shield from him. I remember that his Dragonite overfarmed, but if I leave Garchomp in the back, it's just going to get walled by his Dragonite, and I'm probably not going to be in a positive situation. So I decided to go for the immediate swap, hoping he wouldn't immediate swap, and he does. He throws his charge move right away. I'm expecting it to be an Outrage to take me out. Because he farmed up so much, it ends up not being an Outrage, so I'm like, that's interesting. But you'll see those Dragon Breaths are starting to tear at me, and I was worried he was going to get to another Dragon Claw. I knew he had a bunch of energy, and I wasn't expecting him to make a mistake. So I'm like, you know what? Let me get off a Sand Tomb. It'll at least debuff his Dragonite, and then hopefully I can charm down his Dragonite, and then commit to charming down his Dialga. At least that was my logic. Because he threw that Dragon Claw, though, I was worried he had Hurricane, and I was like, alright, if this is Hurricane, then I have no shot of taking this match, and luckily, it ends up being an Outrage. And you see how little damage that does. And because his Dragonite was so nerfed defense-wise, I was able to charm it down, and I'm like, alright, it's a race. I gotta throw this Ancient Power, even though I probably should have committed to the charm down, but like an Ancient Power ends up being the same amount of damage as a charm, and I definitely didn't want to lose while having energy, and I'm like, I hope he's not an Iron Head. I get in one more charm, and I pull out the first match. So that was pretty stressful. Luckily, his entire team had a weakness to Togekiss, and Togekiss really put in some work behind Garchomp and Metagross. So first match, we win. For some reason, the next battle screen didn't pop up, even though it was only my first battle of the set, but whatever. We'll get into this next battle, and hopefully I can showcase the strategy in this one that I mentioned in the beginning of this video, which is get Metagross into some sort of end game energy advantage or shield advantage. So we're waiting for an opponent. My next opponent ends up being L Halcon GPDGPV blah blah. Let me just say all the letters in the alphabet because that wasn't going well. Anyhow, leading with Garchomp. He leads with Giratina, and this is a matchup that like I either really love or I really hate because it's super bait dependent. If I can just land an Outrage on his Giratina, I can essentially one-shot it. But if I just go straight Outrage, I'm not going to really beat him to all the charge moves, so I need to bait. So I go for the Sand Tomb, and of course, and he does end up shielding. That's a visual glitch. You can tell he shielded because none of his health actually went down. And I land the bait, and I decide to shield, and he goes for an Ominous Wind, so we essentially baited each other, but my bait ends up being a little bit more of an advantage because I nerfed him, so he swapped out immediately, brings in Dialga, and I'm like, you know what? I can bring in Togekiss, but I wanted to have an easier time charming down this Dialga, so I'm going to go for the Sand Tomb and not only nerf him, and do a little chunk of damage. I'm sorry, I mixed up this match. I thought I got the shield, but it nerfs him enough where he's going to get to one Iron Head, but I can actually save my shield here and let this Iron Head come through and still have enough health to commit to a charm down of his Dialga because of the fact that I nerfed his defense with the Sand Tomb. So that was my play. I wanted to make sure I still had equal shields. I definitely didn't want to use it there. Now we're waiting to see what he brings in. He brings in a Melmetal, and I'm like, I wonder if he has an idea of where my energy is at. I didn't want to commit to the Flamethrower just because I was worried about those Thunder Shocks. So I go straight for the Ancient Power. He ends up shielding it. So I'm like, great, he thought it was a Flamethrower. This is perfect. It puts me in a good situation. I don't think I would have gotten to the Flamethrower, to be honest. So I'm like, okay, I got to bring in Metagross here because Metagross is a worse matchup against his Giratina. But I got to play this out properly because both Metagross and Garchomp can handle the Melmetal, but that Giratina in the back is still a problem for my Pokemon. I know this is most likely going to be a superpower. I'm expecting him to throw either one or two superpowers and then dip. Here comes the second one. I probably should have tried to throw my Meteor Mash after this superpower and land on the Metagross, but I was expecting the swap and hoping that I could do enough damage, but his Giratina has so much health from when it swapped out earlier, so that was a bit of a problem. I probably should have aimed to CMP out one of those superpowers. But I throw the Meteor Mash, it lands, does solid damage, and I know I can get Shadow Claw down, so I have to bring in Garchomp. He goes for his charge move, whether it's Ominous Wind or Shadow Ball, I have to shield, because even with Ominous Wind, it wouldn't have taken me out, but the Shadow Claws would have done plenty of damage. And then here, he's such low health, I really don't want to go for this Outrage, but I don't have a choice, because if I go for the Sand Tomb, he's not going to die from it, but, I don't know if I could have mud shot him down. That was the risk. And now an Outrage definitely isn't taking out his Melmetal. And I'm also in superpower range. So I had to just try and throw as much damage at his Melmetal as possible. So I land that Sand Tomb. He's Thunder Shocking at me. He's going to go for the superpower. And somewhere in there, I made a mistake. I thought I had more of an advantage, but the superpower is going to take me out. And it turns out he has a ton of energy because he's going to go for the superpower here, and I'm going to end up losing this matchup, and I still haven't figured out for the life of me how I could have played that out a little bit different to pull off the win. I know I did something wrong there, but I'm still not sure what it was, because I felt like I had an advantage. I had a shield, I had I had Metagross, and I had Garchomp against his Melmetal and his Giratina. But I guess the issue becomes just the fact that his Giratina had so much health. Anyhow, we get into the third matchup. I'm going against VWB. He's leading with Metagross, which is interesting. I literally see no Metagross leads, like, ever. But that's not really a problem for me. I got Garchomp. So I like to play out this matchup similar to how I play out the Garchomp on Melmetal matchup, which is just overfarm as much as possible, see if they swap. He swaps, bring in Kyogre. And then since his Kyogre's stuck, I go for a Sand Tomb because maybe I'll get a shield because he'll think it's Outrage. And at the very least, I'll debuff him. He decides not to shield, but that's fine. Now I can bring in my Togekiss, and my Togekiss would have no problem charming him down after possibly shielding or taking a Surf, but you'll notice something happens after he goes and throws a Surf. I'm pretty sure I decided to shield this just because I don't want to be too low. I want to make sure I keep my advantage. Oh, he goes for a Thunder, which I found fascinating. But notice how we're starting to lag here? Notice how we're slowly lagging? You should see me when this happens. I'm literally sitting there taking waterfalls to the face. I'm like, throw a charm. Where did all this lag come from? I was, oh. You don't want to see me playing Go Battle League matches when lag is happening. That was just some of the emotion. But anyhow, luckily, the game stopped lagging. I got enough charms through, and I was able to get to that flamethrower and get it through. I bet you he expected an ancient power just because I lagged so hard. So I don't really blame him for that. So maybe that lag ended up helping me in the end. But still, I was not happy in the moment because I was like, I had an advantage. Let's not lose it. And I'm getting more lag here because I picked my Pokemon, and we're sitting at this 0 timer. And I'm like, I hope it didn't just pick my Pokemon for me because I know I clicked Garchomp. But luckily, Garchomp comes through. I'm going to take this Meteor Mash to the face because he has a 2 shield to 1 shield advantage. But I also am pretty sure I could have farmed him down. But he goes for the swap. I'm hoping he thinks this is an outrage also because I'm not going to keep my Giratina. I'm not going to keep my Garchomp in. I'm going to try and nerf him. I do get the shield. And I'm going to bring in Metagross. And now that he's nerfed, my Meteor Mashes are really going to start to add up. He's licking me up. I'm worried about the moveset. I definitely don't want an Earthquake to come through. The superpowers will do a decent chunk, but Earthquake is the main move that Metagross has to be worried about against Snorlax. He decides not to shield there, which I found fascinating. His other Pokemon had such low health, he kind of like needed to shield that. He goes for the Body Slam. Because he didn't shield, I expect him to just go all out for the big move. So I shielded that, and now he's going for another charge move, and I'm like, this definitely isn't an Earthquake. He's throwing way too quick. And it ends up being a superpower, and I'm like, alright, no problem. So now I can just essentially bullet punch him down, waiting for his next Pokemon to come in, and it ends up being his own Metagross, which meant that he definitely needed to shield that Meteor Mash. I was very surprised by that. I'm going to send my Meteor Mash through, and he's going to end up shielding this, but my Metagross has more health than his Metagross does, so I could essentially commit to a bullet punch down, so he's forced to throw his energy. He's going for a Meteor Mash now, and his Metagross is literally at like 1 HP, so when he takes down my Metagross, my Garchomp's going to come in here, throw 1 Mud Shot, literally take out the Metagross, and I'm going to win that match. So I have no complaints there. You don't want to shields, totally fine by me. I get the win, and now I'm off to a 2-1 record for this set, and we're going to go into the third match. So you could say I'm liking this team. I feel like with any team, it struggles when you lose lead, but it definitely has options to deal with Giratina and Melmetal and Dialga all over. Like, the entire team has Pokemon to deal with those 3, and those are like the main basic meta Pokemon you're going to see in every Master League battle. So it's important to have a team of 3 that can at least deal with them. Anyhow, I'm going for this Outrage now in the next match. I'm up against a Kyogre. And I almost always go for the Outrages against Kyogres because Kyogres are so bulky. People don't typically shield. Exhibit A. So he doesn't shield there. I've kind of come up with this plan because of that. So I will shield the Surf. I will now commit to farming up a little bit of extra energy, but then also go for a Sand Tomb. I'm going to hope that he doesn't shield, because if I get the Sand Tomb through, it'll nerf his defense, and then I'll bring in Togekiss to throw a charm, and hopefully that'll take him out before he can do anything. He decides to shield, so I don't mind it too much, because I still got a shield out of him. I bring in my Togekiss, and he goes for another Surf, and I know it'll do some solid damage to Togekiss, but it won't do enough where I'm worried. But either way, Garchomp's not winning the match against Kyogre, so you gotta get fancy with how you play it out. He brings in a Snorlax here, so I'm like, okay, how do I want to go about this? I don't really feel the need to keep my Togekiss alive here, so I decide not to shield. It gets me pretty low, but I'm able to charm enough and get to an Ancient Power where I can at least get like half the Snorlax's health out. And now I'm debating to myself, he still has a shield, and I need to think of what the better Pokemon to bring in here is, but when you're getting used to a new team, you're not really too sure what you should end up doing. So I think for a little bit, I'm like, you know what, forget it. Let's go for Garchomp. I know I can definitely tank a Body Slam. He's throwing his energy super quick, so I decide not to shield here. I'm going to let this Body Slam come through. And I'm going to hope that I can farm up some extra energy, throw this Sand Tomb. Whether he shields or not, it'll nerf him. I can bring in Metagross, and maybe he'll stay in, and I'll be able to farm him down. He decides not to shield, but that's okay. We both simultaneously switch, so I was like, okay, it's a good thing I decided to do that. But he has Dialga, so I'm kind of like at a lost moot point here, because my main hard counter or hard discounter against his Dialga is Togekiss, and Togekiss is already down. So I decided to go for the Earthquake immediately, hoping he won't bait. Like, I know what a bait is, obviously, but like, other people know what baits are too. So it becomes like an overthinking game, because if I go for the Meteor Mash there and he doesn't shield, then I'm just as screwed. So he knows that, and I was hoping that the Earthquake would go through. I was hoping he was expecting the bait. But anyhow, it doesn't work out, unfortunately. He's going for his charge move here. And whatever it is going to end up taking out my Metagross. Ends up being Thunder, so I had no chance here. I had to go for the quick swap, because honestly, if I didn't go for the quick swap, then my Garchomp would have just been Dragon Breathed, how do you, what's the proper pronunciation there? Somebody help me out. It would have been Dragon Breathed down regardless, and then Metagross just would have been at more of a disadvantage. So that match is GG. Dialga really had me there because my main counter was already down and was used on the Snorlax. So going into the 5th match, I think I missed the name. I think it was Nor or something or other. I got my Dialga. Man, I'm really just on a roll today. I got my Garchomp going up against this person's Snorlax. And similar to Kyogre, Snorlax is a pretty tanky Pokemon. So people love to just not shield the first charge move. So I'm like, alright, I'll go for the Outrage. I don't want to go for a Sandtomb Nerf and then be forced to throw the Outrage. Notice he didn't shield, or she. This person's going for their charge move. And honestly, there aren't a lot of charge moves that stress out my Garchomp. So he goes for the Body Slam. They'll slowly add up, but like you saw, that didn't do too much damage. He swaps out, brings in his own Dialga, and I'm like, you know what? I want to set my Togekiss up nicely. I'm going to throw this Sandtomb, and at the very least, it'll debuff him. Maybe he'll expect an Outrage and shield just like that. So even better. Pull the shield, bring in my Togekiss to charm it down. We get a little bit of lag there. I continue to commit to the charm down, and you'll see how they start to eat away at his Dialga, because of the fact that it was nerfed. Like, Charm hurts it anyway, but the fact that it was nerfed from the Sandtomb, it's really hurting. So this person's definitely not getting to 2 Iron Heads. So I shield that Iron Head up, commit to the Charm down. I'm loaded up on energy. I'm kind of expecting the Snorlax, but I mean, that depends on whatever his third Pokemon is, so I have no idea. I'm sitting there, and my opponent decides to quit. So I'm like, alright, whatever you had in the back must have been really weak to Togekiss, because I still had a shield on it, and a bunch of health and energy, so I was set up good there. And that team ended up working out. And I went 3-2 for the overall set. So that's a new team to definitely test out in Master League Go Battle League. It went 3-2, so it must have been pretty solid. And on top of it, didn't have any legendaries. It is still pretty expensive though. Getting a Hundo Garchomp isn't exactly easy. Getting good IV Togekisses isn't the easiest either. I know you can hatch a bunch of Togepis, but like, that's probably the next hardest one. And then Metagross should be the easiest one to get, because it had a community day, but that was like way back when, so I don't know, it depends how long you've been playing. Either way, I like the idea of taking user requested teams from the comment section, so if you want to shout me out a team to try, as long as it's realistic, please don't be like recommending Great League Pokemon in Master League, because that's just not going to work. But anyhow, if you have an idea of a team that you want me to try, I'm all for it, as long as I have the Pokemon for it. You already know I don't have Kyogre or Dialga. I've been whining about it for the past, couple weeks since Master League's been a thing. Either way, I'm still excited for, Friday, tomorrow, for Great League and all the other leagues to come back, because there's a certain Spice Pokemon that I can't wait to try out. So, definitely have a video on that, and that just about wraps up this video. So, I don't know why I'm still talking. Don't forget, like, comment, subscribe. Catch you guys in the next video.